Make eye contact with somebody you don't normally do that with. This is, I've just been told that this is 3 times the size this event is normally. So, yes, that's significant. Because as we've seen a lot of possibilities in the last few months to come together against and to resist, here we are for, right? This event is for peace. So here is your community for peace. Here are your elders and the future coming together to make art that symbolizes, to hear facts that jar, and to stand and sit with those that will be with you in that resistance and in that towards. So, here we are for peace, here we are with each other. 3 times over. Right? I think it is not a coincidence that we are together in larger numbers this year than any other year. I think that is significant and should be held tight. We've heard a lot of facts and informations thus far. Let's take a moment and be for peace by finding peace. So let's take a few moments to breathe together, outside, in this wonderful world that still exists, and be for a few moments. As you breathe, as you think, as you imagine or meditate or pray or whatever word you use, project peace forward. We have examples behind us of destruction, of horror, of incineration, of blinding light and cities gone. Let us look forward with our minds, with our prayers, with our energy, and send that forward now. The sounds of children talking and wind blowing and birds chirping and waves lapping is the sound of peace. Hold it. The feeling of heartbeats and breath takes and wind blows and grass wet and bugs bite is the sound of peace. Hold it. That is a peaceful murmur. My friends, Krista and Susan and Paul asked me to help dramatize, as he said, or theatricize, or spicing up this event, right? What's a part of this is I have some actors that I get to work with and some younger folks that I used to work with at my former position as a youth director that are pre-planned plants that will be taking some lanterns, and we will be ceremoniously taking them to the other side of the water. That is significant. As we extend that light into the water here ceremoniously, as a Japanese lantern experience is to carry the souls of the dead to the other side, let us also think about the light on the other side of whatever barriers you and I have made. Who are the other that we need to extend light to? And as we symbolize that, after you put your lanterns into the water, we will take our lanterns across the water. How can you take your light across the water? What is the barrier between you and the other? So as you witness that symbol, that very simple installation, reconcile the walls that you've made between you and the other, and swim across them. I preemptively told this group that I would write something, that I would write original work. And I like to do that, and I've been doing more of that. And as I was researching ideas, gathering fragments from across the internets and across the information clouds, I came across a couple of essays that have already been written, and I could not outdo them. So I'm going to read them. The first is from one of my favorite authors by the name of William Faulkner, from his 1950 speech from his receiving the Nobel Prize Award for Literature. He says, this is an excerpt. Ladies and gentlemen, our tragedy today is a general and universal physical fear so long sustained by now that we can't even bear it. There are no longer problems of the spirit. There is only the question, when will I be blown up? Because of this, the young man or woman writing today has forgotten the problems of the human heart, in conflict with itself, which alone can make good writing because only that is worth writing about, worth the agony and sweat. He must learn them again. He must teach himself that the basest of all things is to be afraid. And teaching himself that, forget it forever, leaving no room in his workshop for anything but the old verities of truth of the heart, the old universal truths, lacking which any story is ephemeral and doomed. Love and honor and pity and pride and compassion and sacrifice. Until he does so, he labors under a curse. He writes, not of love, but of lust, of defeats, in which nobody loses anything of value, of victories without hope, and worst of all, without pity or compassion. His griefs grieve on no universal bones, leaving no scars. He writes not of the heart, but of the glands. Until he relearns these things, he will write as though he stood among and watched the end of man. I decline to accept the end of man. I'm going to say that again. I decline to accept the end of man. It is easy enough to say that man is immortal simply because he will endure. That when the last ding-dong of doom has clanged and faded from the last worthless rock hanging tideless in the last red and dying evening, even then there will be still one more sound, that of his puny, inexhaustible voice still talking. I refuse to accept this. I believe that man will not merely endure, he will prevail. He is immortal, not because he alone among creatures has an inexhaustible voice, but because he has a soul, a spirit capable of compassion and sacrifice and endurance. The poet's, the writer's duty is to write about these things. It is his privilege to help man endure by lifting his heart, by reminding him of the courage and honor and hope and pride and compassion and pity and sacrifice which have been the glory of his past. The poet's voice need not merely be the record of man. It can be one of the props, the pillars to help him endure and prevail. The second is from, we can clap for William Faulkner. Yeah. It's funny because I said I would write about the future, and these men of the past are writing about now, in 1950. And we're going to tick the clock back even further to 1935 from an essay by Ernest Hemingway from his essay Notes on the Next War. 1935, mark you. Every move that is made now to deprive the people of their decision on all matters through their elected representatives and to delegate those powers to the executive brings us that much nearer to war. No one man nor group of men incapable of fighting or exempt from fighting should in any way be given the power, no matter how gradually it is given them, to put this country or any country at war. The first panacea for a mismanaged nation is inflation of the currency. The second is war. Both bring a temporary prosperity. Both bring a permanent ruin. Writing in 1935, he writes about Italy and an interesting dictator in that country at the time. Italy is a country, listen, of patriots. And whenever things are going badly at home, business bad, oppression and taxation too great, Mussolini has only to rattle the saber against a foreign country to make his patriots forget their dissatisfaction at home in their flaming zeal to be at the throats of the enemy. A man has ambitions. A man rules until he gets into economic trouble. He tries to get out of this trouble by war. A country never wants war until a man, through the power of propaganda, convinces it. Propaganda is stronger now than it has ever been before. War is made or planned now by individual men, demagogues, and dictators who play on the patriotism of their people to mislead them into a belief in the great fallacy of war when all their vaunted reforms have failed to satisfy the people they misrule. And we, in America, should see that no man is ever given, no matter how gradually or how noble and excellent the man, the power to put his country into a war which is now being prepared and brought closer each day with all the premeditation of a long-planned murder. 1935. Those words ring true this day. Take another look around. Again, these are your people. These are your community. These are the beating hearts that will stand with you to find peace, to untangle conflict, to promote love and compassion and understanding, and to remind each other of past mistakes. That is the human endurance. Do that. Be that. And as we light our lights and send them across the barrier, hopefully you can see our representation of the light across the other side. And may you remember to swim across the barriers that keep you from the other and melt away the fear that spurs antagonism, hate, bombs, and destruction, and plants a fertile ground of love, peace, understanding, and resolution. I've been charged to take this second. If any of you are interested in continuing to be a part of Nebraskans for Peace, it's one thing that my wife, who is a community organizer, brought Nebraskans for Peace to an event she had. And I said, it was earlier, not a few months ago, and I said, I have to do something. I can't not do anything. I have to do something. And I said, Nebraskans for Peace is these are my people. So if this is something that you're interested in and compelled to be a part of, come get a pamphlet from one of these two awesome women in these blue shirts, and get more information, give us your information. We'll get in contact with you, or more events and ways you can get involved. And so now, yeah, please connect with them. And so now, as the sun is setting and the darkness rises, we are going to light our lights. And my cadre of performers are going to grab their props, and we're going to light our lights. And once all of your lights are in the water, watch for ours and reconcile the distance between you and that which needs peace. Thank you.
Let's go find his parents.